guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing really well. Today I thought I would do something a little bit different and just sit down, chat to you guys about my top 10 regrets in motherhood. Now that sounds quite negative, but I'm not just going to sit here and moan about things that I did. This is more like if I went back in time, did it all again, I would probably do these things differently, or I kind of wish I'd known these things. So hopefully it will be like interesting and a bit of advice if you are a new mom or if you're pregnant as well. And I actually saw Delilah do this video. She's got the channel Lopesky's Life. She's adorable and she made a video like this, and I found it really interesting because the regrets that she has in motherhood were different to mine. So I'm sure it's different for everyone, so it might just be an interesting conversation, and I'd be interested to know if you have any regrets from being a mum. Put them in the comments down below. I'd be interested to read those, whether it was at the new mum stage or just at any point. I think we can all kind of like learn from each other. So hopefully this will just be like a chilled, chatty video, get a cup of tea. My first motherhood regret is giving birth on my back to my first son. I had him, like you see in the movies, just laying down in a hospital bed. But in doing that, I actually broke my tailbone or coccyx while I was giving birth to him. Now this is very rare and it's unlikely to happen to you guys, so please don't freak out. But I still wish that I had known that that was more likely to happen, because it's something that I still suffer from today. He's 11 years old, but even now, if I sit on a hard chair for like 20 minutes, I find it very difficult to get back up. Like the pain is so intense. I have no pain if I'm running around or standing up. It's really only when I sit down for a long period of time. So I might actually get a standing desk. But anyway, I had him on my back, and when it came to the pushing part of the labor, like I had a very textbook labor, when I was pushing him out, he just was not coming. I was pushing for over an hour, and the midwife said to me that if he doesn't come out in the next 2 pushes, I've got to get the doctor in here. So in saying that, I pushed like I'd never pushed before. I actually pushed him through my tailbone, and I didn't know that you can actually damage, bruise, fracture, or even dislocate your coccyx or tailbone when you're giving birth, and it's even worse if you're on your back. So in my subsequent births, I had them on all fours or standing up, which was much better because I've actually got a tilted pelvis. So especially if you have a tilted pelvis, do not give birth on your back because it's still something that is painful even now. Second regret is not being more assertive or sticking up for myself enough, especially when I had my first baby. I was 27 when I had my first son, so I wasn't a very young mum, but still it was all very new to me. So when people would tell me things or health professionals would tell me things, because it was all new, I kind of just like go with what they said and kind of agree, even if deep down I knew it didn't feel right, so like in my gut. Even when I went into labor with my first son, I really felt like things were happening, and we went to the hospital, but they were like, oh, it's your first baby, like go home, have a bath, chill out. But I knew that it was happening. So anyway, we went home, but of course he was coming. So in the end, we had to get an ambulance out to like come and see us, and then come back again. But so I wish, even from like then, I wish I had refused to leave the hospital. And also when he was young and we'd have like health visitor appointments, like sometimes things were said and I think actually I should have gone, well, no, actually that's not the case. I actually had one health professional, I'll never forget it, say to me when he was 7 months old, I said I was still breastfeeding him and it was going really well, and I was like super proud of that, but she said if I'd carried on breastfeeding after 7 months, that I was only doing it for myself and not for my son. And I knew like that the World Health Organization recommended a year. So I wish I'd kind of just like stuck up for myself more, and obviously with my second and third child I was more sure of myself. My next regret is a big one. I wish I hadn't become so sleep obsessed, especially with my first son. Now actually having a routine is one thing that I think I did quite well. From 8 weeks with all the boys, I had a good routine for them, more for my sanity than anyone else's. But with my first, I definitely paid too much attention to the naps. Like the nighttime sleep was always like not as big a problem, But when I had my first son, I read the Gina Ford book, and her routine was to make sure that they were napping in their cot every day. And I can't tell you how many times I was out and about rushing home to get him in his cot, or waiting outside his room for him to fall asleep in his cot, and he probably wasn't even that tired. So although sleep and a routine is really important, I don't think it really matters where they have their nap. And I know people would disagree with that. With my second and third children, because I was doing the school runs and I was busy and running around, they would just have to nap in the buggy sometimes, or have to nap in their car seats if we were driving somewhere. So, and they were fine. So the thing is with naps, they end. All of my children stopped napping at 3 years old, whereas when I was in it, I felt like everything kind of revolved around this nap time, but it actually finishes. So if it's in the buggy, don't worry, like they're not gonna nap forever. My next regret is having too many visitors come and see me when I had a very new baby. When we had Fraser, he was the first baby out of all of our friends. He was the first baby on both sides of the family. So obviously everyone was super excited and wanted to meet him and would come round, but obviously him being the first as well, like people didn't really have that much experience with babies, and maybe with like how I was recovering and stuff. So I just found it all very stressful, and it was a bit too much. You know, like you're kind of in pain, you're healing, but then you're also trying to make coffees and have biscuits available for people. So I wish I had just chilled out on letting people come round, and of course I did that with the second and the third. But I would say if you ever go and visit a new mum, my top tip is just bring food. Bring so much food. Like homemade is even better, but if not, like you can get really nice posh ready meals that you could bring. Definitely text before you visit a new mum and ask them what they need, because they will need something, and then they get the opportunity to say to you, actually, can you get bread? Can you get milk? Can you get like something? Bringing like pastries or fatty snacks to make their breast milk have more calories, just little things like that. Also, if you visit a new mum, offer to hold the baby if they want to go have a shower or have a sleep. I think things like that, like I just found it really overwhelming that I was having to like host and be a new mom and like leave the room to breastfeed. I was quite unsure of myself. So yeah, that is a regret. I just found it all a bit like, whoa, too much. My next regret is worrying way too much. I know that all new moms probably worry and are a bit anxious anyway. I think we've all been there when your baby's asleep and you really should be sleeping, but you can't stop checking that they're breathing and stuff like that. But I would just worry about things in the future. I'd worry about losing baby weight. I'd worry about what people thought. I'd worry about me and Matt's relationship. I'd worry about the fact that I'd never sleep again. I just actually really got worked up. And looking back, like at the time, I would have never said that I had any kind of postpartum anxiety, because I was loving motherhood so much. But actually looking back, there were points, I don't know if it's sleep deprivation or what, but I would have visions of things happening. Say I'd be like walking along. I never forget when Caleb was a new baby and Fraser was like on his scooter in front of me, and a white van drove past. I'd have visions that the van would open up and just take Fraser, and things like, you know, like I just went into like some kind of overdrive, and I really do regret that. I think, oh, I wasted so much like time and worry. And so if you're in that phase, like, just know that it does get better. My next regret is doing things too early, especially again with my first son, poor Fraser. But I feel like when you have one baby, I was just so excited. So every time he got to that next stage, I wanted to do it. So like as soon as he hit like a weaning stage, like I was so excited to wean him, so encouraging for his first steps, so excited to potty train him. Like I was definitely just moving him on so quickly. And with my second and third child, I was way more chill. Like I didn't start potty training the other two boys until they were like nearly 3, whereas Fraser at like 2 years old, I was like, come on, let's get like sitting on the potty and like practicing and stuff. So I wish again I had chilled a little bit with that. But Fraser is very forward, but I don't know if he's like forward because I was pushing him, or if I did those things because he was forward, if that makes sense. But all I would say is if you have a young baby and you're at that stage and you're like trying to bring them on, or you're worrying that they're not matching the milestones of other like peers or children around them, just chill, because like Matt always jokes, no one is going to ask them in a job interview when they're older, oh sorry, what age did you potty train at? When did you start eating solid food? Like all these little things, they're not really that important in the grand scheme of things. Next regret is not trusting my instincts enough in those early days, like not trusting that gut feeling. It's definitely something that I do now a lot, because our bodies give us signals which should not be ignored. We're wired in a way with our children to comfort them, to meet their needs. So when your baby starts crying and you actually start just leaking milk because your body's like already trying to comfort them, it's actually so clever how it all works. When my baby would cry, my heart would go because I just would want to meet its needs. So there's so much probably science behind it. So if I ever have a gut feeling or something doesn't feel right, I have to trust that feeling. I hope that makes sense. The next one is a big one, and that is I wish I hadn't compared myself to others so much. There's so much good in going to baby groups and making mum friends, but then of course you talk and you compare and it can be quite toxic. So I wish I just didn't that much with my first son. Obviously with the others I felt quite sure of myself by then, but everyone has different parenting styles, everyone has different family circumstances as well. So really you just need to do what works for you, what feels right for your family, because if you're happy, then everybody's happy. Like everyone stands to benefit from that. So definitely don't compare yourself to other mums. If they're doing something that you're not, don't feel like you should be unless you think it would benefit you. Next regret is I wish I had been a little bit better at accepting help, especially with our first son. All of my family lives abroad, so maybe if they had been here, I would have found it easier to accept help, to like let them in, to let them hold the baby while I showered and stuff like that. But I just had this overwhelming feeling like I, as the mother, should be doing absolutely everything, but actually that's insane. Like that is crazy. And sometimes I'd even find it hard to let Matt do anything. Like if I'd feed Fraser, I'd even find it difficult to hand him over to be burped by Matt. So I don't know if it was just me, and I'm much better at it now, but I wish I had let more people like have him for an hour, or even come in and like clean or like help me out around the house. I don't know why, but I just felt like as the mum I should be able to do absolutely everything, and I don't know where that comes from. But if you're in that season of your life, know that it's okay to accept help and it will also pass. And another big regret for me, especially in early motherhood, was losing my identity. I'm sure this happens to so many people, but when I had my first baby, like it was something I had wanted for so long. I'd always wanted to be a mum. It felt like this massive moment. But before I had babies, my job was a big part of my identity and my social life as well. So then when I had a little baby and my whole world just revolved around them, and work stopped and social life stopped, I definitely lost my identity a little bit. And I think that could have been avoided if I had carried on with a few hobbies, if I had made myself meet up with friends, if I had had adult conversations every single day. Like I think there was a few things I could have done to help me not lose my identity. And actually this YouTube channel, which I started when my second son was 6 months old, I really feel like it saved me. I kind of started this channel because I was feeling really isolated at home with two very young children. I had like a nearly 3-year-old and a newborn, and I was just like obviously not like doing my normal day job. I was barely seeing Matt because he was super busy, and I always felt like when he came home after work and he had all these stories about what he'd got up to, I felt like I had like not much to say. So I think if you can carry on with some hobbies, some self-care, if you can get out and see friends, or even just talk on the phone to an adult, it would just really help you to kind of keep that identity. And I definitely have it back now. But yeah, kind of regret just like stopping everything and just being like, right, baby, baby. So those are all of my regrets, but now I did want to share with you just a handful of things that if I did go back in time, I would do again, because actually they were really helpful and really useful. The first one, which I've made loads of videos about, so you can go and watch that. If you're pregnant, I would highly recommend hypnobirthing. It made such a difference to my labor and deliveries. It really did help me. The second tip is I educated myself a lot. I like to research and read books. I know it's not for everyone, and I do think you probably can read too much sometimes, but I'm so glad that I knew what development milestones were coming up. I'm so glad that I did actually educate myself in terms of like the labor, pregnancy, being a new mum as well. So, you know, read some books if that's the kind of person that you are. Another massive tip that I would do is to do a first aid course before you start weaning. I did that with my first son. I should probably do a refresher now, but I did a first aid course. You can take your baby with you as well, and they teach you just the basics of like some illnesses, also how to, if they're choking, like what to do, things to look for. And I would just really recommend that, because it was really helpful. Like when my sons got croup, or if they did start gagging, I felt very sure like I knew what to do. Something else that I would definitely do again is a baby class. So when we were pregnant, we did something called the NCT. So you basically meet up with all these other couples that are at the same stage as you, so that when you all have babies, your babies are all like pretty much the exact same age. So you're all at the same stage together. We had a WhatsApp group, which was really supportive. So we could like ask each other questions, and we would also meet up every week. And I just found it really helpful in those early days with my first son. And another thing that we did is get secondhand baby stuff. So we would get secondhand buggies, secondhand high chairs, secondhand everything. It's all so like, you can get such good quality stuff on eBay. Often people will use things for like a year. All it needs is like a bit of a wash. And I would totally recommend, like, because buggies can cost the same as like a car. So if you can get a cheap like Bugaboo or something on eBay, like why wouldn't you? You can wash them. You can get amazing spare parts online as well. So I wouldn't like discount getting things secondhand if you can. But anyway, I think those are all the regrets and all the little tips that I wanted to share with you. I could probably sit here and chat forever, but I feel like this is quite a long video now. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know if you enjoyed this. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in my next one. Bye guys.